G'day, I'm Derek Fildebrandt, publisher of the Western Standard. Today, I'm joined by Nick Samain. He is the Senior Vice President of DMG Events. And for those who pay attention, that is the organization that puts on the Global Energy Show right here in Calgary every year. It is one of the must-attend events for anybody in the industry with any kind of decision-making power, politicians, organizations tangentially surrounding the energy industry have to be there. Everyone's paying homage, coming on the great oil Hajj to Calgary next week, Tuesday to Thursday, I think, June 10th to 12th. I'm joined by Nick Samain, Senior Vice President of BMG Events. Thanks for joining us today.
Derek, great to be here at the Western Standard. Thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. We've known each other for a little bit. Actually, we met at a football game once. Actually, I think
we did. We saw the Blue Bombers. That's right.
You remember we were playing the Bombers?
I do remember that, and I remember we ran into each other at that game, and it was a heck of a game. A little chilly, but hey, it's CFL, and yeah, ever since then, I think we've been running into each other.
I did not remember it was the Blue Bombers, but I remember I was still a smoker at the time, so I was. There is no designated smoking area, so I was like finding an area behind the garbage cans or something, and yeah, that's where we met. Last year we were at the Global Energy Show. It was our first year for the Standard being there, and it was quite an experience. It is huge. People don't, I think, really have have a hard time conceiving of how big of. I think it's fair to call it a trade. It's a trade show.
There's a big trade show. Yeah, that's right. A trade show and a conference, which is really the types of events that DMG is really focused on, as you mentioned, here in Calgary with the Global Energy Show, but several other major events of that same format, whether that's places like India Energy Week, which is the largest energy exhibition in India, or Antipipeline or Gas Tech, and several other large exhibitions in energy that follow that same format. It's big, and with the new and exceptional venue that we're honored to be in, which is the new BMO Centre. We're occupying 5 exhibition halls plus a large outdoor exhibition area as well. So it's been growing every year since we returned back from the pandemic that shut down the show for a couple of editions. But big jump this year in size and more notably in registrations.
5 exhibition halls this year. How many was it last year?
We were about 4.5. We had some bigger lounges and things like that we do. But this year we really filled in the edges and brought back huge. Some. Yeah, this is.
I had this on an exhaustion from trying just to walk the perimeter of it, let alone every exhibitor.
Yeah, but there's some big exhibitors that are at the event. Some of the big producers like Shell has a big stand on the show floor. But also this year, a lot of the growth has come internationally. A lot of people, of course, remember the oil show, and it's always been an international business. But this year, we've got big pavilions. Not just from countries like, Korea, Czech Republic, Norway, Colombia, and many others. China is there as well. USA is a big pavilion, but also diversity. For example, the Korean Nuclear Association has a very large stand at the show. So there's a lot of oil and gas there, but also you'll find nuclear, geothermal, and several other sectors within energy on the show floor.
Well, it used to be the Global Petroleum Show, right?
It was.
And when was that changed?
So that was changed right around 2020. That was the best intentions for a couple of reasons. One, to open the door for us to grow the event, in particular, many of those sectors that are adjacent to the oil and gas sector, but also the name petroleum in itself was pretty singular within the oil and gas sector as well. We really wanted to welcome in LNG and gas and others there as well. And it's not the first time it's changed names. It's had others throughout its more than 50-year history.
I'll talk just a bit about the history of this. So yeah, it's been around for a long time. I guess its beginnings were a bit more modest at an event than it is now. How did it start? What did it look like? What was it trying to do? And, how has it kind of evolved over the years?
Well, when I took over the show in around 2016, 2017, one of the first things we did was go down and see Jim Gray, legend here, a legend, and certainly a legend here in Calgary as well, who was instrumental in starting that show in the late 60s. And it was really an add-on to the Calgary Stampede, because at that time there was a lot of the vision was there was a lot of people here in Alberta, but also in Canada, and that just didn't understand things like the oil sands, what exactly that was, but what the oil and gas sector was all about, what the men and women were doing in the oil sector, and what opportunities would look like for investment and generating new markets. Strangely, we fast forward 50 odd years. We've really come full circle, Derek, with a lot of those similar themes this year, such as finding more customers for Canadian energy, for communicating what the oil and gas and the energy sector does to average Canadians that may, as we all do from time to time, whether it's things like the grocery store, where does food come from? Where does wealth come from? Where does jobs come from? It tells a lot of those stories throughout the exhibition and conferences as well, which is personally for me is a really important mission in and around the event.
So I get why an oil and gas CEO might go. There's a lot of international attendees, but why would a more average person in, say, Calgary or Calgary area go?
Yeah, I think for some of those reasons,
because there is a lot. I was shocked by how many people are there, and they can't all be oil sheiks.
No, they certainly can't. So if I kind of start, one way to look at it is demographically. So we do work with institutions like University of Calgary, SAIT, local high schools, advanced education, and others. We want to bring a lot of students. It's really important. Many of us in the sector are aware that there is a big skill, not just a skills gap, but also a demographic gap with a lot of people retiring. We need people to be able to come into the energy sector. It's all fine and dandy for us to talk about, as we hear in the news, are we going to build pipelines? Are we going to build new energy infrastructure? But who's going to build them? And more importantly, what are we doing to interest people? That's another thing, to make sure they're educated and get those skills needed to be able to enter the workforce. So we get a lot of young people. We've actually launched a brand new conference called Energy Influencers, which is for young people, but for people throughout the energy sector. That's really a different take on your standard sit in a classroom and look at a screen.
I saw the mock-up of the theater for that. I was like, that is not what I expected.
Yeah. So you've got a theater there, and so you've got that there. So why are they coming? And it's really there's so many great mediums today. You can meet on social, you can meet but face to face. And those collisions that you create on the show floor over 3 days, when you get that many people there, there's no question that's the attractiveness coming down. You're going to run into somebody, you're going to meet somebody, or you're going to know somebody that knows somebody. So that demographic is really important. The buying companies on the show floor, if you are in almost any facet of oil and gas production, or within, let's say, that manufacturing supply chain, say it's on the regulatory side, government, or even the academic side as well, that's a big part of that trade show floor. They're walking, looking for it to meet the companies exhibiting, whether that's new technology, whether that's services, whether they're maybe thinking of a project and they're looking out to be able to secure, to be able to fulfill bids that they've got. That there's a lot of deal making that happens on that show floor as well. And then, of course, yes, you've got a lot of that C-level that's attending as well. And we've developed programming, a second conference that runs, which is the executive conference, to discuss a lot of things like high-level policies, politics, investment, and such.
Well, let's talk a bit about that on the conference side. I saw a good number of the speakers that were there last year. You've got people you would expect to be there, like the Alberta Premier Smith, Energy Minister Brian Jean. I think it's fair to say traditionally it's been more Alberta government focused, less federal government focused. You've got one you told me about before the show, kind of smacked my head in disbelief. Chairman of OPEC is going to be there. Like that's not on the regular roster, right?
It certainly isn't. And we're thrilled to welcome Secretary General His Excellency Aitam Algais to the event this year. He's going to be providing a keynote on our opening morning as part of the executive conference. This year, it's titled the Conversation, and that's part of being hosted by Peter Mansbridge, where Peter's going to work through a variety of speakers. But yes, kicking that off, we're thrilled to welcome His Excellency. It really is I think it speaks to the caliber of the event. In previous years, I think it's no secret that a lot of the speakers we got were very or more locally focused. This year, that's been a big market change of that. What that means and how that can potentially help that international perception of Canada as a big player. We know we're a big player. That's part of what we've been talking about with the show is Alberta and Calgary. It's not a second class energy city or destination. We've got some impressive stats. Fourth largest oil producer, fifth largest LNG, and so on. I'm not going to rattle all those off that are familiar likely to many of the viewers, but we're a big global player. And I think for a few years, and as an organizer, we organize conferences around the world. I don't know if we as a country have really been touting with our chins up and what we bring to the table. So maybe that's just me reading a little bit in, but to be able to have Secretary General His Excellency come, I think really does maybe send a signal. This event does bring a lot of global attention, and the global audience coming is tremendous. And these are people, many of them with money in their pockets, that are looking for opportunities, that are seeing what type of investment climate could there be here in Canada. If there's talk of new projects, what is the openings for supply chain, which we're going to need. We are part of a global supply chain in the energy sector, and that involvement, and that's really a positive signal.
Honestly, I thought the name Global Energy Show was perhaps a little pretentious, and then I attended it last year, and there were guys, Korean National Oil, Middle Eastern players, obviously tons of Americans, Norwegians. Everyone was there, and I was quickly disabused of that. Perhaps we do think a little small in Canada or Alberta sometimes, but this was a real hub of it. I think there's a few of the big energy shows around the world now. All of them might be DMG, right? They're pretty much all DMG, right? I
won't say that. No, some, okay. But many of them are the largest in the world. The Antipipeline conference, we're probably very famous for. That's the largest energy event in the world. But several others is Antipipeline or Gas Tech, which is recently in Houston, where we hosted many Canadians and internationals. But yeah, the Global Energy Show really does rank as one of those global events, and I think. Both for domestically, Derek, but also internationally, I think there's a bit of a wake up to say, is there looking like here in 2025? And that's part of that conversation, and the conference is really focused on that, is that what's maybe the next 5 years and beyond that going to look like? As we know, many, big projects or things like pipelines or LNG, they take time to build. And if we really want to instill,
they take longer to approve.
They certainly have been up until this point. But if there's going to be some changes there, I think the world's really paying attention to that, and that does speak to our record number of international pavilions in the show floor, but also delegations coming from all around the world, and they are here. They want to meet with Canadians. They want to meet with Canadian energy companies and suppliers and understand the market and find new opportunities. They're going to be roaming the city. I don't know if you've tried to look for a hotel room next week. It's getting more and more difficult. We've recently been reaching out through our social and otherwise, encouraging people to book their hotels. The city's going to be jammed, and there's going to be people here wanting to get
followed right by G7.
And then you followed right by G7, which is...
I'm aware of what the hotel situation is there with security delegations, everything coming in. It's wild.
Yes, indeed. And so it's really actually mentioned that because we have had some good tailwinds being butted up right against the G7. We're really a platform to really air a lot of this discussion and debate, and to be able to come out of the event, which we will as we close on Thursday, right prior to the G7. We're also this year going to be producing a full white paper on all of the findings from the executive conference. In addition to the public conferences happening, there is 12 curated closed door roundtables, which are not in front of an audience, with industry CEOs and elected officials talking about specific issues. So we're going to be collecting all of that and producing a report that will release post-event, which we hope some of those findings will land on the desks of those decision makers. And in a way, we've done our part, our humble part, as an event to really supercharge that attention on the energy sector, which it deserves.
So we talked about Chairman of OPEC coming. What are some of the other guests or speakers coming that you're most excited about?
Well, from the C-suite, you really many that will be familiar of is you've got CEOs coming from companies like Petronas, from like Cenovus is going to be there. You've got Shell Canada, head of Shell Canada, that's going to be speaking, head of TransCanada Pipeline, and so there's. I get in trouble if I keep going, I don't mention anybody. That's why I'm not putting the names. But there's more than 20 major CEOs speaking there, alongside high-level elected officials, as you mentioned, is Premier Smith, who we're thrilled to be able to welcome back to the event. Also, energy ministers from Saskatchewan and New Brunswick and other provinces that are traveling here to talk energy, to talk trade, to talk about learning from how we do energy here in Alberta, and how we can not just export more molecules across Canada, but also, and really importantly, export knowledge, export know-how, export our ability to continue to grow our competitiveness and sector, and all those good things that come with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in last year's conference, I could attend every speaker. Like there's multiple speakers at different times in different halls. There was a lot going on, but I mean, it was held in the context of continued just total stonewall against building pipelines, against denial of development for major new oil sands projects. Really when it started to dawn on everyone that the Trudeau government was truly dead. People are, I think, a bit more optimistic right now. We're at least getting positive rhetoric out of the federal government around energy issues. But it's still rhetoric at this point. But it's at least not as explicitly hostile as we were, say, during last year's show. So we're coming in under perhaps a little bit of a different vibe. People aren't sure how real it is yet, but it's a different vibe. What do you think are the main issues and themes that are going to be covered at this year's show?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because I think we're hearing that from a lot of people coming is, whether if someone asks me, why should I attend? Or I'm attending and hoping to find this out. It's exactly that, is that we know rhetoric, as you said, or we're hearing different things. How can I really get a sense of what the heck's going on? And so we've structured our program to directly address some of those things. First and foremost is if we're gonna build big infrastructure, what should it be? And who should build it, and where, and how quickly can we overcome regulatory approvals? How quickly can we overcome attracting private investment? How can we ensure that we are engaging Indigenous investment and buy-in on these projects, and pull all that together? So building infrastructure is a big part of that. I guess if I say that, and there's a lot of others that topics that fall into that. Then on the other side is how do we diversify our energy customer? And that doesn't necessarily mean how do we sell less? So we sell less to the, I don't think that, at least to my, that's not what I'm hearing. It's more so that we have an abundance of energy. We want to, and some say have a responsibility to further develop that, whether that's in oil and gas or other opportunities in nuclear, in critical minerals or otherwise, and be able to export those. Certainly LNG comes to mind as well. So that's what we've really programmed the event around, those two big themes, and that's what a lot of talk is coming out. And getting back to our host is really going to be zeroing in on that. We want to try and press as much as we can responsibly with our guests on stage is to come up with, yeah, we should try this, or this might be a way to be able to approach this, because you're right, we've been through a lot of this, and I know that there is and for those of us, as you mentioned in previous years of the shows, there's a bit of a fatigue of, is this really going to happen this year? We very much hope that the show, where you get that many people together and that many power players together, that and in person, just like we are right now, we tend to find that in-person medium sometimes enables two people that might have opposing views to maybe see the other person's perspective a little bit and say, yeah, okay, we want to get to the end goal. So we hope a little bit of that happens too.
You have unintentionally segued perfectly to my next question. It's not all just speakers up. A lot of it is panels. I don't think necessarily structured as debates with one guy, one podium, one guy, another, and a moderator, but panels where you might have people with pretty different views on things. Do you have any not debates, but panels where you expect to see some more vigorous debate, where it's not necessarily different versions of the same view on stage?
Well, you and I know each other pretty well, and I think that we would agree on this. And I've heard this before. The worst conferences, and I put my conference hat on because our responsibility ultimately is to the ticket holder. That's somebody that's paid some good money there. They're not paying for an echo chamber. That's first and foremost. And not picking on that, but sometimes we all attend conferences that we want to hear what we want to hear. That's what we're paying for, and that's okay. That's not what this is about. So that's first and foremost. Having all panelists, yeah, agree. I agree with my fellow You won't hear any of that this year. We have curated, we get a big executive committee that is diverse on this to help us go through and pick the right speakers. We want debate up on stage. That's what we're paying for. What is that? Of course, respectful debate. That's what that is. It's not about embarrassing anybody. That's not what our show is about, but it's about putting hard questions out there, giving people an opportunity that want to make a mark. They want to be able to get opinion out there. The big difference with the Global Energy Show, as you hit through off the top, is it scale? Is it scale? There's close to 80 media registered right now. It gets national and international attention. So with speakers on stage, have not just a big opportunity, but we feel a responsibility to be able to contribute to that conversation. And when we wrap all of that debate up, what comes out of that, that's what we want to share back with the community. So yeah, I won't go there to say we'll sell you the whole seat, but you only need the edge. One of my favorite ones, but you know what I mean? We owe that responsibility. You can expect panels that are tight, that move quickly, that get to the point. You won't see any PowerPoints, especially upstairs. You're not going to be able to sit through long, drawn out speeches like that. It's sit down and let's get down to business and see if we can come up with some new ideas or expand on ideas that are out there and how we can make things practically happen.
So when I asked you what are some of the big other main speakers, you were very careful to not say many because you don't want to get in trouble with those you don't mention. But I'm going to try again in a different form on, what are some of what do you think are going to be some of the most interesting and vigorous panels where people are going to be debating an issues? Like, what are they going to be talking about? Those topics that, the ones you're going to be a busy guy during the conference, but the ones you might slip into when you got a moment.
Yeah, there's no question that I'm certainly going to be there, as you mentioned, to listen to what His Excellency says when he's deliberately speaking right at the top end of the conference to really give that global context. I'm going to be there most certainly to listen to one of my favorite speakers, which is Premier Smith, to find out what she's going to be able to say and bring to the table. She always brings that for our conferences, and Minister Jean as well. So those are three that are can't misses for me, because they are very insightful and fresh on what's happening with those issues of the day, and it gets everybody buzzing, and it really helps everyone else kind of put the rest of the event into context. Aside from that, you've got fireside chats. I'm really interested to hear Country Chair Stasia West, who's going to be sitting down with Peter Mansbridge, who is going to be talking about not just what's very exciting for the country, the largest infrastructure project in Canada, the LNG that's starting its first exports to Asia of Canadian LNG. I'll be looking to hear some insights on, and I know the rest of the country will, is that something that we can continue to grow and build on in East and West? I'll be looking out for conversations about pipelines. I make no apology of that. DMG Events here in Calgary also runs the International Pipeline Expo. I'm a fan of pipelines. I've
heard that.
Yeah. So I'm very interested to hear, as I said, there's, we've got not just Mark Mackey, but other big speakers that represent pipelines at the event, big sponsor TC Energy. I want to be able to hear those discussions on what that could look like, and is it something that we can start to look forward to as a nation with some certainty that we're on board with that. So I think that there is a tremendous amount of content. There is the show is just jam packed with there's dinners every night. There's Young Women in Energy's hosting a dinner. National Coalition of Chiefs are hosting a dinner as well.
The food is good. I'll look for it.
And we're chock full of speakers. We're opening the morning with a pancake breakfast that's open to the city of Calgary. Well, it's open to anybody, not just the city of Calgary. So we got all these internationals in there. Anybody that's in the city that morning. We've got an industry night at the Cowboys Casino, if you really want to change that up, which is always great to see people rip off their ties and have a bit of fun over there.
Yeah.
We got all so much happening during that week. There's a 10-year anniversary for our awards gala. We've got some great nominees. There's so much on the website, globalenergyshow.com.
Right on. Was there anything I left out you want to talk about?
Just that there's still time to register. I mean, look, we're sitting here Thursday. We're having several hundred registrations come in. That's of today. People are welcome to register right up until Monday. Mostly, we still have capacity. We are starting to hit capacity on the conferences, but there's tickets available. So we welcome people to come down. You don't need to buy a conference pass to be able to attend the exhibition. There's plenty to do and see throughout the 3 days. And we really want to welcome the energy community. We welcome anybody is welcome. Regardless of your views, or provided you behave on site. We welcome diversity down at the show. We want people to come down and see what energy is all about. Come and meet the men and women, and that's what's great on the show floor.
You heard it there. Nick Samain, the head of the Global Energy Show here, has invited all the anti-pipeline protesters to come on down for the day. Yeah.
Come down. Well, I don't know if I'll go that far, but if you've got some questions about energy, there's nothing, especially. There's nothing that I enjoy more sometimes than seeing young people that have diverse views that get together and realize that they also have stuff in common. And, hey, here we are, Derek. I mean, energy's everywhere. We know we need it. I think that's something anybody can agree on.
You would think,
so and that's what the show's all about. It's a really, really, it's got a real positive vibe to the show this year. And we welcome people to come down. Come be amazed. The show floor has so much cool technology. If you're an entrepreneur, you want to be an entrepreneur, there's so much coming here out of Alberta. Startup companies, new companies. There's a whole pitch competition. Goodness gracious, I could go on. But if you check out the website, I just want to welcome people to come down and check out the show. It's a treasured institution here. You know, we see ourselves as DMG as stewards of this event. As you asked off the top, you know, this is going back to the late 1960s, and we got a big responsibility to do our part as the organizers for the event right now to ensure that it's got another wonderful 50 years ahead of it, and that's our mission.
Well, I know I enjoyed myself tremendously last year. We're going to be on the floor there as an exhibitor. We're going to be set up. We've got a nice big spot, so we're going to be recording shows live. We're going to be interviewing leaders in the industry. We're going to have live shows from the floor. We're going to do the pipeline from there. We're going to do Nigel Hannaford's show. You can see the white of his head right there. You can see back of Nigel's head there. Corey Morgan, he's going to do his show live from the floor of the Global Energy Show. So we're going to be all over. So anyone who is interested, they should come on out. People don't have to pay for a ticket to go see the exhibition.
They do now. So we've just passed that date because there is people register later. It just costs us a bit more to accommodate. But a secret to there is codes out there. So if you know an exhibitor, if you know somebody, scan through the exhibitor list, and exhibitors, we grant them tickets for the cost. So you find a way. If you are somebody that can't afford to attend the show legitimately for whatever reason, contact our office. The email's on the website, and ask for me, Nick Samain. I'll be happy to take your call, and we'll make sure you get a ticket.
That's great.
Yeah. So
we're going to be there. We're going to have a draw ourselves. We're going to have a draw for $20,000 of advertising, free advertising.
That's incredible.
It's a big draw, you know. So if you're a business owner going to be in the Calgary area that day, come on down to the BMO Centre. You drop your business card in, and at the end we're gonna do a draw, and the winner's gonna get $20,000 in free Western Standard advertising, and we'll be there Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday all day. Well, Nick, really appreciate your time and what you're doing with the Global Energy Show. I'm glad we can work together on it, and I'm excited for it next week.
Thanks so much for having me, Derek, and I'm so looking forward to next week and all the stuff the Western Standard has going on there that you mentioned. It's going to be a great week. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. That's Nick Samain, Senior Vice President of DMG Events, talking with me about the Global Energy Show coming to town right here in Calgary next week. What's the website? Where can they register?
GlobalEnergyShow.com.
GlobalEnergyShow.com. Check them out. Trust me, it's really, really great. You're going to want to be there. Thank you very much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.